We've seen signs in the data that Harris is in trouble with black men.
You're coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses. I've got a problem with that.
And we've all watched Trump's clunky approach to women voters.
You will no longer be thinking about abortion.
I've narrowed it down to the 5 key voting blocks that are going to determine this election. First, Nikki Haley voters in the Republican primary. And not just Nikki Haley, but what I like to call zombie Nikki Haley. These are battleground states in the general election that held their primaries after Nikki Haley dropped out of the race. Look at Delaware County in Pennsylvania, outside Philadelphia, where Nikki Haley got 23.5% of the vote. Or the key WOW counties surrounding Milwaukee, where Haley got a little under 15% of the vote. These are mostly conservative voters, but they may be uncomfortable with Trump's role in the January 6th riot at the Capitol, or may generally favor abortion rights. These are prime persuasion targets for the Harris campaign, and it's one reason you're seeing sit-downs with Liz Cheney across the battleground states. Second, the black male vote. Black men make up about 5% of the national electorate. Like a lot of voters, the economy, inflation, immigration are all big issues for this bloc. Those are the issues that Donald Trump talks about the most. Now, I want to be clear here that Kamala Harris is probably going to win between 70 and 80% of black men. However, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden won 85 to 90% of black men. In an election this close, any slippage among any voting bloc could be decisive. Third, Latino voters. They make up about 10% of the national electorate, but are particularly concentrated in a couple of the battleground states like Arizona and Nevada. There are signs that a lot of these voters are very frustrated with affordability issues, and in fact, over the last 4 years, the Phoenix and Las Vegas metro areas had some of the greatest rates of inflation of any places in the country. Now, Harris will probably win a majority of Latino voters in this election, but it's worth looking at what her messaging is to them. It's acknowledging their frustrations with inflation.
Latinos, like everyone, care about bringing down cost of groceries.
But it is also reminding them of some of Trump's more inflammatory rhetoric, particularly about immigrants.
¿Quién tiene una solución real para la frontera? ¿Este hombre? ¿Que separó familias, puso a niños en jaulas y quiere deportar a miles de personas?
Fourth, people who didn't vote in 2020. In most elections, about 15% of the electorate is new. Generally speaking, because this group is younger and less engaged in politics, they favored Democrats in recent elections. In 2020, Joe Biden won new voters to the electorate by 16 points. But in this election, the race is closer among voters who didn't vote in 2020, partially because Donald Trump is doing a little bit better among young voters than he did in his last 2 elections. He's also doing a little bit better among more diverse voters, more so than previous Republican presidential candidates. Trump relies on a less reliable coalition of voters, people who don't have histories of voting in every election. That could cut both ways for him. One, he could bring new people into the process. Or two, some of the people he's relying on in this race might not show up. And fifth, white voters without college degrees. They make up about 40% of the national electorate and a majority of voters in some of the key swing states like Michigan and Wisconsin. The biggest realignment in our politics over the last couple of decades is a bit of a class inversion. White voters with college degrees used to be the most reliable Republicans in the electorate. They've moved left. White voters without college degrees, they used to be the blue-collar backbone of the Democratic Party. They've shifted hard right. Yes, those voters care a lot about the same sorts of issues like the economy and immigration, but a lot of Republicans' appeal, especially in the Trump era, is cultural. When you hear Trump and the Republicans talk about the elites in Washington and big cities,
Every citizen who's sick and tired of the parasitic political class in Washington.
that's a direct appeal to some of these more blue-collar voters. Similarly, when you hear Harris and Democrats talk about Republicans being the party of the rich,
His economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people.
that's also an appeal directly at this bloc. The question for 2024, does Trump have more room to grow, or is he tapped out? Because as a share of the electorate, white voters without college degrees are shrinking. In an election that appears to be this close, even the smallest voting bloc could end up being decisive.